All right, welcome to Creator Hardware, where today we're talking about buying a pre-built editing PC. This is Creator Hardware, where we talk about the equipment and software to make online content. If you like the video, make sure and subscribe. If you don't mind, hit that like button as well. If you're familiar with what's going on in the world, getting components to build your own PC is dang near impossible to get everything you need, especially a graphics card, due to mining and scalping and some other stuff. If you need an editing PC, pre-built are going to be your only good option. So let's talk about some tips and tricks to buy a good value editing PC that's pre-built. When it comes to pre-builts, you got to look at the individual components. Now, editing PCs, you're going to want at the bare minimum a AMD or Intel chip R5 or i5. That's the bare minimum. Really, you want an R7, an i7, or an R9 or an i9. Basically, they're two top tier chips. More cores, better at rendering videos, better at using a editing software program. You're also going to want a discrete graphics card. That means an actual graphics card that's not built into the CPU. So many editing softwares leverage that discrete graphics card. When I'm rendering out a video in Premiere Pro, my GPU, my 2080 Super, will hit 70% utilized because I'm using Q-to-core acceleration. So it's really important that when you're speccing out a pre-built, that you get something with a discrete graphics card. Preferably NVIDIA, not hating on AMD, but they're less accepted in the editing world as far as acceleration. But you definitely want to get a high-end processor. Now, when it comes to desktops, you want to make sure the cooling is good. When you're rendering out a 20-minute video, CPUs can get hot. And especially the higher end CPUs, you want to make sure you've got enough processing power to handle it. And heat dissipation. That's one of the problems with laptops is heat. They can only do so much with so much of a laptop. CPUs generally have better coolers, but look at those features. Memory, at least 1 terabyte internal on an SSD, NVMe preferred. Faster, faster, faster. Now let's talk RAM. RAM on editing PCs is really needed. If you're gaming, 16 gigabytes of RAM is more than enough for everybody's needs. But on editing PCs, 16 is basically the minimum. When you're speccing out a laptop, make sure you get 16 gigabytes. 8 gigabytes will be fine if you're surfing the web and watching videos, doing Zoom calls, but editing uses RAM a lot. You know, that editing PC has 32 gigabytes. Does fine for Adobe Premiere Pro, but when I go into After Effects, it struggles because of that RAM limitation. It eats up 32 gigabytes of RAM easily in After Effects. That's why on this one I've got 64 gigabytes. Now, if you're just doing editing, 16 gigabytes is fine, but more is always better. For most people's needs, a lower end discrete graphics card will be more than enough. If you're not doing After Effects, if you're not doing 3D rendering, if you're not doing really high intensive stuff, a lower end discrete graphics card will do fine. A NVIDIA 1660, a 1650. You don't need a RTX 3090 in your system to edit videos. You know, I don't even have those because I can't get them. Not because I don't want them, but I can't get them. So I've got a 2080 Super in this one and a 2080 EVGA Black Gaming Edition. And they do more than good enough for my needs, period. I really don't have a good reason to upgrade other than want. But my point of that is you don't have to go super, super expensive on the graphics card. A good graphics card, mid-tier, will do fine for video editing. You don't have to go extreme to get a graphics card that will work for video editing. Now, I started my first channel editing on a laptop, an Asus gaming laptop. Now, a lot of times you'll see online that gaming laptops are great for editing, and they are. Because of the discrete graphics cards they almost always have. They make a great way to edit videos. Now, laptops are not the ideal situation because of, well, heat. They get hot. Editing on a PC, it gets hot. Editing on a Mac gets hot. It's just the way it is because you're pegging a lot of the processes to 70, 80, 100%. So on a laptop, you have to understand that your render times will be longer because of that thermal headroom that you don't have. On this laptop, when I would edit 4K videos, it did fine. It's an i7 1070, and it did great. The problem came at render. My CPU would go to 100%, my GPU utilization would go pretty far up, but my CPU went to 95C, which is thermal limit on the CPU. So what would happen is it hit that thermal limit and clock down to keep itself alive. So that would extend my render times. Let's talk brands. Brands to avoid: Dell and HP. Why? Bloatware. Regardless of whether you're going laptop or desktop, they include so much bloatware. You know, health check and disk check and, you know, yada yada. It's just like bloatware, and it will bog down your computer. It will give you a negative experience. A lot of the Mac is better crowd weren't wrong, not because the Macs were actually better, but because so many manufacturers bogged down their computers, their Windows PCs, with bloatware. You know, you got McAfee antivirus running in the background. Guess what? It takes a lot of resources to run that. And in case you're wondering, I don't have any antivirus on any of my 6 PCs I have. I have 4 laptops, 3 for work, 1 here, and then these 2 PCs. I don't run any antivirus. Anyway, those are brands to avoid. I might be accused of being an Asus fanboy, but Asus branded laptops are good. They don't do a lot of bloatware. They're solid laptops. So if you're looking for a laptop, Asus is a good brand. All right, let's talk build services. Now, I've talked about it before on this channel, but that computer right there was built for me by NZXT's BLD service. Time constraints was the main reason I had that built for me. I can build a computer, but it was, in order to keep up production with my laptop, it took all weekend for me to edit 3 videos. Editing was a huge time sink for me at that point. Now I've gotten my workflow down to the point where I'm done editing my main channel in a couple hours. But at that point, I was spending all weekend, Saturday and Sunday, editing videos. I had a great experience. Shipping was a little slow, but that was FedEx, not them. It worked. Everything about the PC was advertised. So I can recommend NZXT's build service for sure. They've got a lot of pre-builts on there. Pre-builts that you just say, I want to spend this much money, and you get a really good computer for video editing. There's other companies like that, and that's a great option. Because of lack of inventory of graphics cards, keep in mind there is going to be a wait on pretty much any system unless you go to a store and it's physically sitting there. So I hope this video gave you some options on buying a pre-built PC for video rendering. As always, hit record, hit upload. Thanks for watching. This is Creator Hardware.